5 hours to Reno. Our Call of Cthulhu one shot that will take probably at least this session, if not longer, to complete. Um, it's been a couple of weeks since last time, with reality encroaching. Uh, so I think I will just go around real quick and say who we are, what we're playing, and where you think your characters are mentally, shall we say. What's going on? So starting with... let's start with Vincent for a change.
Okay, I'm Vincent, queer he gamer on Twitter. That's the name of the social media, and I am playing Dirk Stalin. Um, he's confused, and that's the only thing keeping him kind of together is that he's just plain confused. That's keeping him going because he needs to figure what's going on. So,
Wonderful. Well, hopefully things will clear up and not in the slimy way we've been seeing so far. Across to Fenway.
Hi everyone, my name is Fenway Jones. I'm also known as Fenway the Teen DM on Twitter or at Jasper's Game Day on all of the social medias. You can find me at Jasper's Game Day on pretty much everything. I will be playing Gretchen Gordon. She is a, Wild West gal, and she's looking to make sure that the Hensley gang gets to where they need to be. And currently, her mindset is she's trying to keep the image of the grossness, that was in the room that we had previously investigated out of her head, as that is not something she would like to continue to see. So, you know.
I can. That does make certain sense. So, meanwhile, Chris, how are things and who are you playing?
So I'm Chris. I will remain Chris throughout this game, but I'm going to be playing Badger today. Badger is a tracker that is, I think, a little bit upset with these newfangled steam train things. So he's pretty annoyed with this technology stuff. He is absolutely fine. This seems a very straightforward robbery that's going on. The only thing that Gretchen and Dirk have noticed is the main victim here seems to have expired in some sort of super weird goo, which has Badger completely confounded, and he's trying to put a rational place around what kind of creature could have caused this to happen, because clearly we've got a dead man, a robbed safe, a psychic that was knocked out and drugged, and then we got footprints leading away and money that's been stolen, plus a couple of other well placed items in here to lead to obviously clearly a mystery. However, though, the other odd thing is there seems to be lots of maggots around here, which is really kind of weird given their size. So Mother Nature's not having a good day, so something odd is afoot, and we will find out what it is.
Indeed. And scrolling the timeline back to where we left off, the three of you being part of the posse of the good old Marshall, having gone out to investigate what the train conductor characterized as a dreadful murder, but there is no sign of... well, there's barely a sign of a body in as much as it's just a pile of messy, bloody, bony goo with lots of flies and maggots, as Badia so perfectly identified. And you've spent a while talking to Mr. Li Wei, the new owner of the railroad whose carriages you're currently sitting in, if the fourth member of your party Doisa Mall is to be believed in her reading of interpretation of the well. And you've just finished talking to this Oriental gentleman in a stripy pajamas and a quite hungover headache. When both Dirk and Badger heard gunshots or shotgun shots from further up the train. And that's where we're going to pick up the action. We'll get you onto the right map here.
Also, I was still on the ground tracing the guy's feet on the footprint paper that I had
Oh, yeah.
traced of the footprint that was in the study or whatever. So, you know.
Yes, Mr. Wei's boots are quite considerably large. So larger than the footprints you had leading back to the rear of the deceased's carriage. But yes, there is a somewhat of a surprised susurration from the guests at breakfast, since shotgun shots isn't a normal occurrence in a high-class restaurant car, and well, or further on up.
Yeah, if we heard a shots or whatever, Dirk is gonna go that direction, because maybe the murderer struck again.
Yeah.
So
I would... Go ahead.
Okay. No, you.
No, I was just going to say I would probably get up and try and follow Dirk. But specifically being cautious about it and having my weapon drawn.
Very good. And Doisa is just going to exclaim loudly with various Spanish swear words and head off on after. Badger?
Badger grunts to her to stay here. This is likely to be the gang that have probably escaped, and we'll deal with these pesky varmints. Because for those that haven't caught up with last week yet, the previous one is we were escorting a criminal gang that we caught, and we were holding them captive at a further part of the train, and with the marshal we were returning them back to justice. So Badger clearly thinks that something's gone awry and it's time to do some shooting.
Hopefully, anyway.
What else could it possibly be?
I mean, maybe the train is just launching off some new technology or something like that.
Well, Badger will shoot that too if that comes up.
I figured as much.
Yeah. don't trust it, put a bullet through it. That'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah,
cautiously
that's
make
fair.
your way up. There's an expectation that there is going to be an armed hostile with a shotgun, and given the shotguns in this area, they're kind of close. Are they close? Were they close range, kind of like the sawn-off shotguns that we saw keep, or were they the longer kind of more farming type shotguns?
More farming type, but they're
Sure.
mostly effective inside. Still mostly effective inside, typically 10 to 20 meters.
Sure.
So in as far as accurate firing inside a contained railway carriage with other people around, there is certainly the likelihood of people getting winged if they're not careful.
Yeah.
You make your way back up the parlor carriage and into the sleeper carriages. And as you come into the second sleeper carriage, or the middle one, you notice at the far end none other than Jim Hensley dragging what appears to be an unconscious Angel Caulfield, one of your fellow posse members, back out through the far door of the carriage.
Is that there? I'm not sure you can see it on the Roll20 map, but over here.
Hang on, I can shift you a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, they start off.
Can I try and shoot the Hensley leader?
Sure, yeah, you can try to pull a shot off as he's making his way through the door.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you'll go for a shot. What's Dirk's reaction on seeing this?
First reaction was to head down after him, but if she's pulling a gun, I'm not gonna run in front of where she's pulling a gun. So that's not happening. So I'll get my gun out and prepare to shoot if she misses.
Okay.
It might only take one shot, so.
Badger. You're sort of slightly behind the two ladies, or sorry, slightly behind Dirk and Gretchen, but you still got enough sight, sort of across the corner to see Jim dragging Angel out through the door.
So Badger's slightly more cautious because he's got like a long rifle. So he is going to look, because we've just heard a shotgun firing, a blast. He wants to see is there any blood trails? Has someone been wounded? And if there's any more of the gang that may have escaped. So he's looking actively for other combatants or active threats, Staffan. So he's got that real focus on, there's two people with guns running up that way, they've got that handled, but he's looking for what else is happening in this space that's caused this ruckus in the first occasion.
Okay, Badger, go ahead and roll me a spot hidden, please.
Sure, that goes well. Spot hidden.
Oh, okay. Well, this carriage seems to be still, at least mostly, just regular passengers. You do notice two things. One is the gentleman seated. Oh, helps if I actually try and click on my screen. Over here is perhaps cowering significantly more than the rest. The other is, of course, the launching from behind the corner here is a small chihuahua that is starting to run down the floor of the carriage towards the four of you, with the rather upscale dressed young lady shouting, "No, come back here, bad dog!" So we start off with Gretchen's shot. I believe she has the highest dexterity of the lot of us.
I did roll, and I got a hard success.
Yep.
I would be aiming for upper chest / head, if possible.
Okay. Let's take a quick. Okay, we'll throw that in. As you do, as Jim is going out of the door, you do manage to wing him. Dirk, you were firing as well, I believe.
Yes. Let me remind me which one we use.
So if you scroll down to the weapon list, and then
Yeah.
click the green die by
Green.
the weapon you're using.
Got
there you
it.
Go. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah. Not. In this case, you would have needed a hard success to hit, since they're essentially in partial cover getting out of the door. So you end up bouncing a bullet off the door frame. Oops, I need to bring him back. He's just standing out there. I'll do that. He's there. I need to go here. There. There. Just 1 second here. Okay. So with Jim having dragged Angel out through the door, and Gretchen having scored the first hit of the encounter, as it were. At this point, of course, the carriage is now pretty much erupting in more or less internal panic as there's gunshots ringing down the walkway between seats. So it's not going to be the easiest to maneuver necessarily, but and of course we have Mrs. Bose running after Petal.
Well, you know.
So I'm going to assume you're giving chase.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that me?
I think I'm going to call for dexterity rolls just to try to navigate the somewhat panicked crowd. You can have a bonus die on the dexterity roll if you're willing to take the risk of stepping on Petal.
I'm okay with just going regular.
Yeah, Gretchen launches herself through the crowd. Is the door.
I'm gonna hope I'm dexterous enough to not step on the dog without trying, so. Oops, that's the wrong one. That roll? That was not the right thing. There we go.
Oh, just as well, really.
Yeah.
Yep. Dirk likewise makes it through. How about Badger?
Yeah, Badger's not one of those kind of dexterous chaps, I would say. So he is going to bellow at people to get out the way. Get!
Okay, that's fair.
Just get them to take cover. So it's kind of the get and take cover shouting an awful lot as he kind of waves a rifle in their direction and tries to basically browbeat them to not be like lunatics.
Yeah, no, that's... You could roll and intimidate, or if you wanted to, maybe roll a strength. Obviously, different difficulties depending on.
Yeah, it's kind of more strength. It's more physical presence. It's not. It's just kind of shouting at people and just kind of waving the rifle rather than intimidating them to do that. It's just trying to get them to, just plow forward. So.
Okay. Actually, you know what? Make a size roll.
The size roll is size roll. Whoops, sorry. No, ignore that. That's me tapping on character sheets I shouldn't do.
Okay. Yep. No. Badger, by sheer presence and existence, manages to clear enough of a path through that both he and Doyce are following in his footsteps, because Badger is big, Doyce is small. Managed to make it through the carriage without too much. As you all do, go ahead and make a spot hidden roll.
Staffan, if there's any opportunity to bark loudly at the dog, Badger will take it.
Oh, absolutely. That's a free action, as it were.
None of us find anything.
Badger. Okay. Wow. I mean, you're. I would say that there's every chance that you're fairly blinkered in where you're focusing right now.
Yeah, that's
Between the
fair.
possibility of somebody standing in the next doorway with a gun waiting for the door to open, and Jim Hensley being loose and out and about, and apparently somehow armed. So I can accept that. Badger being the more situationally aware so far, and as he says, taking things a little bit slower, does notice that one of the passengers just just ahead of him clears out of the way in front of him by going into the lavatory, slamming the door, and he hears the latch shut.
Does that individual I don't make the assumption that that was a he, but was that individual on our list of poker players by any chance? From the description from the gentleman we've been talking to?
Not that you've had described.
Oh, fine. No, that's okay. Just checking. Thank you.
Yep, no, worth double checking. Yeah. I think this way. So you make your way into what you know as your sleeper carriage, and you're making your way sort of fairly carefully down the corridor outside the cabin. Worryingly, there's nobody in the cabin itself. You do see what at least appears to be the hat of Leroy, the sixth member of your posse, back up against the rail of one of them, seemingly with some sort of body slumped underneath it. So, but in a semi-awkward position, as it were. So whether he's wounded or not, too early to tell. But at least that's your number 6. And but more importantly, you see Jim at the end of the carriage with a rifle pointing down at you, and he's going to fire off a shot, assuming I can find him. Real quick. Jim Hensley. But it just sinks off the goes into the wooden interior wall. So you hear the wood splinter from in front of you. So we're back to Dex order. Jim has the highest. I think after that it's Gretchen. I forget whether it's Badger or Dirk has the higher dexterity between you.
Uh,
I think it's Dirk.
I'm not sure
He's-
either,
he's-
but
Yeah. I think it's Dirk.
That sounds plausible. And I think, if I recall, Doisa is sort of in the middle. So, Gretchen, you have the despicable Jim Hensley firing a rifle down into your direction. This feels oddly reminiscent, in as much as it was only 4 days ago you were in a firefight on a ranch, capturing the gang in pretty much this very situation.
Yep. What is he rolling, or do I have to roll?
Oh no, he's fired. He fired, but it went. He missed sideways, so the shot went into. Sounded like the shot went into the wall on to the side. This.
Can I fire back?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the shot sort of went there.
Ah, gotcha. Oh well. That is definitely not going to hit.
Well, that's good, because Jim completely fails his dodge as well. So
Okay. Yeah.
onwards to Dirk.
okay, I'm gonna take a shot.
Go for
Hope
it.
I can get him this time. Okay. Ah!
Oh, nope. That's okay. At least it's not a malfunction roll, so
True enough.
just going to make sure that I have... Okay, yeah. We definitely dodged out of the way that one. Doisa. Doisa is... What does Doisa have? Doisa is a paper pusher with a derringer. So we'll see if he can manage to... Well, he's got to fire through everything. She's going to... He's going to get out of the way a little bit and go into the cabin instead, and start just making sure that the marshal isn't lying on the floor bleeding out or something like that. Which leads us to Badger.
Given the amount of gunfire that's going on, and Jim is wounded because Gretchen kind of at least winged him, and we can probably see the blood. Actually, what's going to do this carriage is going to go for an intimidation approach. So he's going to level the rifle out and shout very loudly to give himself up. You're surrounded, and we don't want to kill you here. Friendly guy.
Okay, so this is going to be an opposed intimidate versus power roll. So go ahead and roll your intimidate.
Mm-hmm.
For a regular failure, and Jim just sneers at Badger. and comes back with, you need to join the 19th century. The future is here, and if I have anything to say, it won't have you in it.
We'll be burying you without your boots.
And that'll bring us back to the top again. Given that power roll. Now, we recognize Gretchen as the threat here. So,
Why would I be the threat? I am shooting a gun, but that means nothing around here, right?
Jim is fully aware of exactly what level of esteem Gretchen holds Jim's life on the best of days, let alone in the middle of a gunfight.
That's fair. That's fair.
Ooh. Now, basically, at this point, you get to roll a dodge roll.
But I have to get below a 2.
Well, no, you have to, in this case, probably you would need to get an extreme result to avoid the hit.
Okay. Probably not gonna happen, but we'll still try at least.
It's always worth a try.
Yeah. Where's... I mean, I was almost at a critical failure.
Oh my.
Okay, Gretchen gets winged for a fairly substantial 5 points of damage. At which point I have to ask, does Gretchen normally have at least 10 hit points?
Yes, I have 11.
Okay, that's good. That's not a major wound.
Yeah.
So it hurts, absolutely, but at least it's, it didn't strike anything vital. It chinged off a shoulder blade and cracked that probably. Which brings us around to Gretchen.
Fantastic. I'm going to respond by trying to shoot him in the head again.
Absolutely.
That's not what I wanted to do. That is not going to happen.
Just in case. Okay, no, we're doing good. Dirk, seeing Gretchen get spun back almost into you as Jim sends a rifle bullet careening into her, causing Gretchen's shot to go wide. What do you want to do?
Okay. I'm not sure in this how moving works during combat, since I'm new to it, but I would like... Okay, because I would like to try to get closer, but also not out in the open. So, like, are these seating booths that are all along the cart? Okay.
Yes. There is a bed just around the corner. There's a bed just around the corner to the right. You don't quite have sight on it at the moment. But yes, after that, it's traditional 1860s railway booths, high leather backed with the metal bar sort of running along the back of it.
Okay. Since I know it's there, I'm going to go over to the bed area that I know is there.
Okay.
And I want to take a shot before I kind of duck behind the wall of it, so maybe I don't get shot at because I moved closer.
Got it. So you want to end up sort of hidden over there, but behind the wall to the seat in front of you. Is that
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I get? Okay. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
As you're moving around, take the shot.
Okay. There it is. Hey,
Okay.
that's not bad.
Well, Jim has had a good run of extremes, so maybe the extremes will continue. We'll try and dodge.
Oh my.
Okay. And that was a 5. What am I actually rolling? I'm rolling a d8 straight, so that's... Okay. So, just to see how this plays out, Dirk moves past Gretchen, and as he gets to the corner of the corridor, goes into a crouching roll as he spots Leroy already on top of the bed where he's heading. He does that full forward somersault, roll forwards, coming up, pistol pointing straight at Jim, who just at that point, the train judders slightly sideways, throwing Jim off balance just enough that his head moves slightly sideways and the bullet just enters straight between
Oh
Jim's
my
eyes
goodness.
and quite frankly just blows his brains out,
Oh my
spattering them
goodness.
all over the back of the car. I'm
Oh
going
boy.
to need a sanity roll from Dirk.
Okay, that's in the skills, right? Or is that somewhere else?
That's up just underneath the statistics, yeah.
Okay, let me... Oh, there it is. Okay, so I roll the one next to the 3 numbers, right?
Yes. Yes, the green just
Okay.
to the left of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you get to take 1 point of sanity from the sheer gruesomeness by which you execute Jim Hensley.
Oh boy. Okay.
So that
Remind me how I do that, where I do that?
the middle number of the 3 larger ones is the one that you would
Yes.
adjust down.
Okay, so I changed that one. Got it.
Yeah. And one point isn't, since it's
Okay.
the first one. I'm confident that that's not going to be anywhere near the break point. So
Yeah.
we'll start that slippery slope downwards. As a deadly, well, not quite deadly quiet, but a quiet sinks over the carriage. So we'll have you there. You take a quick look and you find that both Leroy and Angel have been tied up and gagged. They appear to have been probably pistol whipped on the back of the head. They both have a big bump, so they're out cold. But go ahead and make medicine checks.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I go up to Jim Hensley before I look at before I make the medicine checks? I would like to use another round of my Colt and shoot him approximately where I think his heart would be, just to, make sure he's dead.
I don't know that Gretchen has a wooden stake and a mallet on her person in her possessions, but I wouldn't put it past her to even go that far, frankly, given that it's Jim Hensley. Yep. No, you.
Great. Fantastic.
I was going to say, make a gun roll just to see how badly you jam the firearm, as it were.
Yeah, that's fair.
You can't miss. It's just a case of, if you actually...
Yeah.
There's always the possibility of you push it in a little bit too far into the body and jam it. And that's just a mess to clean up, frankly.
That's fair. And then my medicine check as well. Which...
Okay, yeah.
I can't make. So.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Basically, you reckon, they'll be fine, but no real idea how long they're going to be out for. Worryingly, you glance around. There's signs that a couple of the railings, particularly down here, have been basically bent up from the back of the seat, which is probably how the gang started their escape. You do know that one of the gang members in particular, Simple Ben, is quite strong when he has the need to be. Also, there is as yet no sign of the good marshal. However, go ahead and make listen rolls. Okay. We are back in classic Roll20 land, I see. Yeah. So yes, no sign of the good marshal.
Well, we didn't see any other members of the gang while we were headed through to this area, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then we probably need to continue through and see if we can find the rest of them, because that's bad for them to be out and about.
Very. What is the process/expectation for bringing the rest of the gang back to custody alive?
There is a... Since they haven't actually undergone trial per se as yet, I mean, there's no doubt in any of your minds as to the guilt, at least in individual cases of the members of their evil doings. But there is an implied preference for bringing them back alive, not necessarily in one part. Yeah, as long as they're capable of standing trial, then that's pretty much all that's needed. Sure, if they come back dead, it's not going to be it just means that you won't get paid perhaps quite as much, but there's not going to be any comeback for it.
That's fair.
I just want to take the opportunity to do a little bit of tracking, please, and see if we can determine if because this train's moving at 20 miles an hour, so it's reasonably easy to jump out. So, and you mentioned bent up bars, a window's been opened, so if they're just going to try and look for have they left the train or have they moved towards the engine, as a good example.
Okay. Tracking roll feels like a good start on that.
Marvelous. So, tracking.
Okay. It is not Badger's Day. Nothing. The carpet is fairly worn in this wagon. Possibly why they put you in here rather than perhaps the other two carriages, which are slightly better upholstered. So not really any signs. Windows and so forth are all closed. But as you're looking around, feel free to make a spot hidden roll, all three of you. Oh, Gretchen. Gretchen, you're just randomly looking out of the right-hand side window up by where you are with Jim's body. When you see running, or limping away rather, from the train, the two ladies of the gang, Brake and Betty and Heartless McRae. Sort of, they're basically heading off. They're approximately sort of, assuming that the carriage isn't there, so just out in the grounds, starting to come back down the train. It looks like they've jumped out of the carriage in front of you into the desert, tumbled a bit.
All right. I'm going to shout at my compatriots, and I would like to shoot out the window.
Okay. Go for it. Let's make a roll. All right. Yeah, you've got a peacemaker. You've got reasonable range. It's somewhat of an unsteady platform, but you definitely managed to wound Heartless. Hearing and seeing this, what's Dirk's and Badger's reaction?
Well, like you said, we would prefer Dirk would prefer to bring them in alive, but if they're running away, then probably shooting them is better than them getting away. So if I can before they're too far, I do want to try to take a shot out.
Sure, sure. I mean, you can just pull down a window and fire out. Um,
Cool.
okay,
Oh,
and
okay.
you fire off a bullet and it chinks off some desert stone and disappears off into the distance.
Yeah.
Badger, go ahead and make a natural world roll.
Sure.
Extreme success. Okay. Badger just is looking at this and is looking out at the two women and one who is just been shot and the other who's staggering somewhat, probably with a twisted ankle from the fall out of the train. It's late spring in the high Utah desert. You're about 3 hours train. You're about 60 miles away from the nearest habitation, which would be Reno. Sure, there's possibly a couple of mine settlements or whatever along the way, but nothing of any real import. There's one train a day that runs down the tracks. You don't rate the survival chances of two townsfolk in those circumstances, especially not once night comes and things like snakes and bears and all the other fun stuff that inhabit the wilderness start getting whiff of that blood.
Sure. Badger will bellow out the window. The next shot's not going to be a warning one. Get your behinds back on the train. It's trying to engender them to come back to the train to a survivable future.
Okay. Go ahead and what do we want to call it? I'm gonna say let's make this a social roll. So any of the charm, intimidate, persuade.
We'll go with intimidate. Thank you very much.
Okie doke. So a regular success, intimidate. Okay, and Victoria. So if I can roll like 55. We'll spend some luck. I'll do a dodge. Break him. Okay.
And Staffan, because we're on a steam train, regardless of how they react, I've always wanted to pull the brake cable. So Badger reaches up and gives the cable a good old yank to stop the train.
Okay. Slight problem, but it'll just take about an action or so longer, possibly. The reason being that these trains are early enough that the only emergency brakes are the big brake wheels at the front and end of each carriage out on the platform.
Good. Sure, that's no problem. So he'll move that way to do that then, please.
Absolutely. Head back to the platform to head to the... there we go. There's the emergency brake. Okay. So as the train starts to slow down, as the second to front carriage wheels lock against the rails and start to just not want to roll, particularly, providing lots and lots of nice friction. And right now also it's starting, the tracks are going up into a bit of an incline towards the western range. So you're slowing the train down to a reasonable, to possibly to catch up space. Victoria McCree turns and tries to swing at Brake and Betty. Connects, but in doing so takes a stone that Brake and Betty was holding in her hands to the solar plexus. So between having been shot and having just had the wind knocked out of her, she falls down on the ground, and Brake and Betty starts to stagger to try to catch up to the train. Now, the problem is Brake and Betty has got a twisted ankle, so even though Badger has slowed the train down, she's not going to catch it up unless the train keeps slowing down and comes to a complete stop.
Given that we've got Dirk and Gretchen murdering anything in sight at this stage, we'd like a couple of people to take to justice. We'll try and get it down to at least a slow walking pace, Staffan. So, Badger can hop off, kind of pull her on tracks, then going back and get her, the other fellow escapee, and then hand it on to Dirk, who's much better at shooting things than Badger is. But Badger's very good at manacling them. He'll manacle them both up, and then bring back the shot and battered other lady.
That makes perfect sense. In which case, what is Gretchen and Dirk going to do as two further shapes make their suddenly appear sort of stage left on the ground next to the train and moving away at a bit of a sprint. But the train is now starting to slow down to maybe more like 5 miles an hour, struggling against the carriage with the locked wheels, with an almighty screech to the point that you can actually barely hear yourself think almost in the carriage.
If I can barely hear myself think, it's even better. I would like to reload my gun, and I'm sure everyone knows what's coming next. I would like to shoot the furthest one from the train.
Go for it. And just remind us, Fenway, what's the weapon that Gretchen is using?
It's a Colt Peacemaker.
Okay, so it is a revolver. So you can, if you wanted, you're okay for shots because you've got 6 of them, I believe. So you could fan the trigger and get multiple shots in. You can get up to 3 shots, but for each additional shot that you do, you get to roll an additional penalty die. So you'd have to run the purple button. So the first shot would be normal, the second would be a 1 penalty die, and the second would be 2 penalty die.
I only heard up to 3 shots. My internet froze out, but yes, I would like to do that.
Okay, in which case, press the purple button 3 times, please.
Okay.
So, a hard, a miss, and a malfunction. Okay. So, you fire off the first, and it's a center body hit, doing 10 points of damage. I'm going to say that is going to be the end of Laughing Bear. Just straight out. You then go to move your target to Old Man Sam, but in doing so, between the movement of the train, the shuddering of the carriage, the screeching and everything, you manage to miss him. The real reason you miss probably is as you go to fan the trigger the third time, you're a little bit heavy-handed and just knock it sideways, so the trigger jams into the back of the gun case, and so you'll have to make a attack roll essentially to clear that, or to clear the jam. And at that point, you would have, I forget if that's 1 or 2 bullets left.
2, I think.
That sounds about right. Dirk.
Yeah. I really don't want to shoot another one in the head. Can I aim for the legs, like be a little more specific about where I'm trying to hit, even if it makes it a little harder?
Sure, yeah, no, you can take a penalty die. That's
cool.
That's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would like to do that because I would prefer not to see someone get shot in the head again. So, do I have to do it any special way? The purple.
Roll the purple die. That will give the.
Got it.
Purple die -1 is a miss. Okay, so you're yet again, especially with the brakes being on, the carriage is shaking quite a bit. So you just shudder a little bit as you let off the shot, and it goes wide.
I had one really good shot, and I promise you that's the only thing that's ever gonna connect. Oh.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so Old Man Sam is trying to get away. The carriage has essentially stopped, so he's just moving at running speed. We also have Heartless. We have Heartless McCrae lying crumpled in a heap, but still alive out there. We have Breaking Betty making her way back towards the train and now starting to catch up to the train as it's come to basically a halt, a juddering halt. I think we're going to do that. Like that. Okay. At this point, Badger, the train is slowed down to basically a walking pace. Did you say that you wanted to jump off and make a beeline for Breaking Betty, or?
Yeah, the original idea was to retrieve the 2 alive prisoners, but now it seems to have gone down to 1 alive prisoner who is limping and 1 not so alive prisoner, is now my understanding.
Well, you've got Old Man Sam, who seems to be basically making a run for it, but he's Old Man Sam, so he's not moving particularly fast.
Yeah.
You've got Breaking Betty, who's making her way back towards the train. You've got Heartless McCrae, who may or may not be alive, but she went down to a sucker punch, so she's probably alive, but might need dragging back. Which leaves 3 unaccounted for of the gang.
Okay, so and the train nearby, Staffan, is it bush? Is it cleared away? Have we got good line of sight? Is anybody like to be able to jump out of a bush or a ditch, for example?
Oh, it's quite clear, mostly flat.
Sure.
You're just starting up the incline into the western or the western range end of the upper desert. So behind you to the side is pretty much flat-ish arid rock desert. The occasional tumbleweed maybe, but
sure. So the kind of goal that Badger's going for is he's going to get the limping criminal back on the train and kind of cuff her, and then kind of more cinematic of a thing. He's just going to fire a warning shot towards Old Man Sam, and then just shake his head, and then point back at the train with his rifle, and then go get the 3rd criminal that's down. So it's just kind of basically her on the train first, shot, just a kind of a warning shot. He's not actually aiming at him. It's like, it's that kind of rifle shot in the ground, effectively to point out he's got nowhere to run. and just shouts, "Get back on the train!" and then starts going towards the last downed criminal that he can see.
Okay. Whilst that's occurring around the back of the carriage, at some point during that, you will see or meet one of the train engineers who'll be coming back just to check why the brake has been set, as it were. But that's, in the circumstances, understandable. So that shouldn't be a particular problem. So meanwhile, Dirk and Gretchen, you've got 3 unaccounted for gang members and Old Man Sam making a, slow runner and a jam gun.
I would like to run to the carriage that the rest of the gang was running out of, because it seems like Badger has control of the 4 that kind of leapt out. Already has 1 back inside and carrying another while grabbing the runaway, and then going to drag the probably still slightly alive one. And then the leader is on the floor. So that leaves 3. So I'd like to run to the carriage that they were coming out of. Is the short answer to,
Okay.
my long story.
Dirk.
I'm going to follow Gretchen, at least as far as the platform on the back of the car we're on, just kind of to see how things go, because I want to be able to either help her or help Badger if things go south either way.
Absolutely. I'll try and center this up a bit. Okay, I'll just have to. So Gretchen makes her way into the carriage ahead of you, which is the mail carriage. Dirk is standing on the platform looking sort of line of sight to Gretchen. The mail carriage is as traditional. It has a whole bunch of open mail sacks, sorting a big table with various items of mail on it laid out. Noticeably, it's also got a bound and gagged postal worker. And perhaps, also not particularly unexpectedly, the large side door to the carriage is open. But the large swing arm that's used to collect mail bags from hook arms as the train passes is still in the carriage.
Okay.
Yeah, but so a good half length of this portion of the carriage is just open to the outside. Go ahead and make a track roll. Start off with Gretchen.
Is there anyone else in this place other than the bound postal worker?
No one else that you can see. There is a corridor leading further in.
I would like to use 5 of my luck points to make this a success. Please.
Okay, absolutely. You may indeed do so. As you're moving around and looking out through the door, you do notice that there is a set of tracks that seemingly head off forwards along the train.
I'll head in that direction then.
Okay. Dirk, you notice that Gretchen moves into the carriage and then moves off to the right, where you essentially lose sight of her if you were to stay on the platform. Do you follow in, or...?
You are muted.
I am so not used to this. Okay. I am going to move into the carriage that she moved into first.
Okay.
And then see if I can get an eye on her again and hope that I'll be able to see what's going on outside as well. Or at least hear. You know, if I hear a bunch of gunshots, I know Badger might need help.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, basically, you see the same setup, and Gretchen has jumped off. You're now jumping out of a stationary train wagon that doesn't really need a roll of any kind, per se. Quick question, Gretchen: did you ever clear your gun?
I have not. I would like to. I have not used a turn to do so.
Yeah, I imagine that you would. So you just make a handgun roll.
Okay.
Just to make sure it doesn't blow up in your face, basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
Firearms HD.
Okay.
Oh.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you do it as you're moving up without even realize that you've done it. No loss of ammo or anything. In fact, you just automatically reload the extra 4 bullets just because. They just
cool.
sort of reappear in the chambers without. You realize that it looks like there's a number of tracks heading up the side of the railway carriage, and that they disappear before you reach the end of the carriage.
Can I look around and see where they might have gone?
Sure. Make a luck roll.
One moment.
Okay. Spend some luck, but obviously not enough. As you land, having jumped out of the carriage, you go down on your knees just to sort of absorb the shock of the jump, and you happen to glance in underneath the carriage, and you can see legs on the other side running away.
So, like, on the outside of the carriage? Or inside the train?
No, so on the outside of the carriage, on the other side. So, essentially.
So
as though
where the other...
gone around
Okay.
the other way or something like that.
With my newly reloaded gun, can I try and take a shot? And realizing that I probably should attempt to not aim for the head, I would like to aim for anything that is not the head.
Well, the issue you'd have to, and this isn't a problem, but just say, you'd have to make a run for the probably the front of the carriage to be able to shoot sort of in the gap between the carriages. Either that, or you'd have to crawl in underneath the carriage and shoot from prone to get, because right now,
yeah.
essentially they're the other side of the carriage to you. So
I will run to the front of the carriage, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. You've got an absolutely horrendous revolver. So at least for this, the range won't be an issue. So roll purple and we'll take one penalty die for the aim shot, as it were.
Okay.
And there are 3 of them running away, just so you know. When you get round and you see them.
Okay. I will aim for whichever one looks the easiest to hit.
Okay, yep, that's going to be Big Ben. But that's still going to be a miss.
That's unfortunate. Okay.
They basically accelerate up a little bit. You get one more shot before they start getting out of handgun range, but you'll be at an additional penalty die. So 2 if you want to aim, or just 1 if you want to take a
regular shot. Got it. Do that right now?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Sounds good. Can I do the thing that lets me, like, spin it or whatever and shoot multiple at the same time?
Oh, yes, but bear in mind that you will incur a penalty die for everything beyond the first. So you could really only get 2 shots out. Because the one would be at 1 penalty die, and the second would be at 2.
I'll just do the 1 then. And that's the purple dice?
Yeah. So -1 is a miss. So okay. So yeah, it's with the range. They basically extended enough that they're getting away. Meanwhile, Badger. Oh, sorry. Let's swing back to Dirk real quick. Dirk sees Gretchen suddenly take off and run towards the front of the train, start shooting, and then probably start swearing.
Are there any windows or anything on the other side of the train so I can see maybe what is going on?
Unfortunately, not here in the postal carriage.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to also exit the train since it is not moving really, and I don't know. I don't know what. I'll go over to where Gretchen is, since she can clearly see them. Because I need to know where they are. So.
Okay. So you go up and meet up with Gretchen. Meanwhile, as Badger is rounding up the female parts of the gang and having the discussion with the brakeman as to why the brake was used, you also hear the shots being fired up carriage, as it were. You can see the other three making their way out. They're making their way out into the high desert side as opposed to perpendicular to the line. There's three of them, but if they're not armed and they didn't bring water, they're a horse posse coming back for them will find them sooner or later, you reckon?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. So Badger's vibe is less, execute them on the spot type thing, and more. So once he's brought the two women back, he'll shout at old man Sam that this is basically futile. Come back to the train. You're gonna die.
Okay.
Because he's got enough voice. The train's not making so much screaming, so he's trying to convince them that's a terrible way to die.
Go for it. Make a social roll of some kind.
Right. Sure. I can only find intimidation. I'm going to try that again. Sorry, Staffan. I'm sure there's other things I could do. But
that's fine. Bad gang member, come back here now.
Yeah, look, at some point I'm going to get success. I swear.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yes. 1 in 50. I'm doing well.
So old man Sam allows himself to be rounded up as well, as it were.
And the other two that had moved off into the desert. So I'll try that in slow speed. So if you want to go to Gretchen and Dirk and do what their piece, but Badger is just trying to corral these obviously city slickers round from a horrible death and get them back on the train. So that's the goal for that. So if you want to kind of do with until Badger is excessive gunfire, which is kind of weird to say, but he thinks that Dirk and Gretchen are more than capable of dealing with what's on the train. So unless we hear like rapid gunshots, he's not going to return back to the train. If that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the final net result is that you managed to corral up both the two lady bandits and old man Sam, and gather in the body of Laughing Bear. And the three who went off in essentially the completely opposite direction to the train line are essentially driven off by the gunfire from Gretchen and possibly to some extent Dirk if he joins in on the side. At which point the brakeman lets you know that he needs. We can't be. The guys don't want to be more late than they already are heading into Reno, so they're going to want to start the train up again.
Who are they telling this to?
Initially, I would imagine to Badger, since that's who's sort of at the back and who set the brake.
Yeah. So in no uncertain terms, Badger points at the dead body of the former outlaw. The bleeding corpse he's coming back on just piles on there, and doesn't seem to really care about timetables, and suggests they go speak to Gretchen. And it just continues on. So literally, just imagine that they're kind of very surly, kind of like, yeah, your timetable, that's your problem, and keeps loading on escaped prisoners.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable. So yes, the one of the train staff arrives up to talk to Gretchen and Dirk, where they're obviously waiting for gunfire and so forth to start down or to slow down. And it says, well, thank you for very very much indeed for helping out with that slight unpleasantness, but I'm afraid that we're going to have to restart the train.
Not without those three, you're not.
Well, I'm sorry to say that we don't really have much of a choice.
Why not?
We can't. If we stand out here for too much longer, we're not going to have enough water to reach Reno in the boiler, and we'll be, as it were, permanently stuck in the mountains somewhere between here and Reno. We're on a little bit of a time level.
How much time do you think you can give us?
Probably about 15 minutes.
All right. We will figure it out. Get as many people on this, of the escaped people on this train as possible in those 15 minutes. Then you can start the train.
Okie doke. What I'm going to do is see how well. Who do we have? We have. One-tooth Howling. It's to make a stealth roll. Does simple bed. 34. Does Turpin. Okie doke. I would like however many of you are engaged in the manhunt, as it were, to make track rolls. Badger, do you want to add your...
Sorry, so yeah, Badger's just going to continue on. Gretchen, give him 15 minutes, so it was the time to exactly how many people he get back on, and if they're stupid enough not to get back on after his advice,
Yeah,
we can send someone else to
unfortunately,
pick them up.
by the time that the train needs to start moving, you haven't managed to find, or at least retrieve any of the three. They basically split up and headed off individually into the distance, and you're not able to catch up.
That's fine. He's tried his best. He makes so Badger's going to make some mental mappings of where they roughly are, so he can tell the retrieval crews where these folks are going to be down the end of the line. So he shrugs and gets back on the train.
Okay. Well, the good news, for there is good news.
Is that we caught all but 3 of them. You know,
No.
one's
Well, no,
dead,
the
one's
good
almost
news,
dead.
Doyser, in the meanwhile, has managed to find the marshal.
Oh, that is
He
good.
was locked into the bathroom in the in your carriage.
You know, he's supposed to be the brave one here. We do realize that, right?
Yeah, well, he's also the 60-plus-year-old with eyesight that can't really tell if there's a human or a horse shape in front of him, and a gangrenous arm in a sling. So he's he has a few minus points to him, as it were. And having managed to at least recapture and re-hog tie up securely and then double securely about half the remaining live gang, or slightly over half. Oh, yeah, that's right. You got three run away and killed 2, so yeah, not bad. I think this is a good time to take our break, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. And we're back. So, just give Chris a little bit of time to reappear, but you basically have managed to gather up the remains of the gang, taken the liberty to just spread them out a little bit around the still remaining good seats. And the group has regathered in the main compartment of the sleeper carriage, where you're given the story of what went down, what happened, and basically it was Heartless McRae needed to be taken to the bathroom, and at that point, little Ben decided to break the back of his seat and managed to overpower Leroy and grab his gun. At which point the marshal reacted and came out, but not being able to tell friend from foe, was basically overpowered and had his shotgun taken away from him and shoved in the toilet. That was the origin of. It was that kerfuffle that was the shots that you were originally heard. Deucer lays out what you've found so far for the marshal, and he basically, whilst wincing mostly, but eventually.
Do y'all lose him too, or is that just me?
Yeah.
I think you're muted, Chris.
Yeah.
I think you're muted, Chris. I'm not sure if that's also just me, but
No, I absolutely am. I like talking to myself. There's a good resonance for that. Staffan, sorry, we lost you for a few for
Oh,
a moment.
I think he's back.
Yep.
Mhm.
It all went very, very still. So I don't know how much of that discourse you were able to gather.
We got a lot
Dosa
of
told the marshal what had happened and laid out the number of people that we now we have a limited number of prisoners, and some of those prisoners may not be as agile as they were beforehand.
Oh, that's
Or-
okay.
And there was a second crime
brainy as
committed.
they used to be.
Yes.
The marshal's view is that as long as we manage to get somebody back to Reno to stand in front of a judge, they can do a summary judgment on the rest, and there's only one way that judgment is going to go. So he's
Okay.
he's not, sure, not ideal circumstances, but they're one way or another they're getting what they deserve.
I feel we've tried.
They Did as well as you could under the circumstances. It's not easy firing guns from moving platforms.
Sure. It was the bit where Gretchen just, tried to offer first aid and shot him repeatedly as well, which is probably a harder story to tell. But hey, no one's doing forensics, I'm guessing.
I mean, maybe he was a vampire.
Sure.
Certainly, certainly
Can't come back.
persuasive.
Can't come back if there's a silver bullet in your heart.
So moving away from the murder barrage that we went through, we still have mystery on our hands that there is a male, someone on the train with a size 9 boot that has stolen a small fortune in money, a very strangely destroyed body of a very wealthy individual. And the red dust that was left on the carpet from climbing onto the roof. Someone who's quite dexterous, obviously. And the other interesting factor was that they had drugged the business partner with laudanum or some other kind of chloroform type drug, and we found that cloth on the broken into safe. So A, someone who's a safe breaker, B, someone who's quite dexterous, C, someone who knew they had the money, and D, someone who's been using chloroform to break in and drug the other gentleman that was there. And then obviously the dead exploded body, which, nature can't quite describe.
And they have a size 9 boot.
And we have 4 names. We have the 2 ladies that were playing cards, the married couple being one of those ladies, and another gentleman as well. So we've got descriptions of all 4. So depending if the marshal is feeling up to it and guarding old man Sam, 2 corpses, and a well-beaten, twisted ankle of the last lady, we can go off and potentially investigate that shenanigans.
I'm sure I'll be fine with Leroy and yeah. We'll be fine, the 3 of us.
Right. So now look at Dirk and Gretchen.
Yeah.
You.
After you.
Yep.
Okie doke. You move.
I'm gonna do one of those.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I was saying Gretchen's gonna do one of those like blow off the top of her revolver and then like flip it and put it back into her belt.
Of course you will. Just randomly. You make your way out into the next sleeper carriage on your random hunt for prima facie suspects. And indeed, you very quickly do find one of the people in question. The Mrs. Samantha Bose, easily identified due to her New York style attire, who's busy helping take care of the lightly wounded random passengers in the carriage from the various shotgun fire that went down. Nobody's sort of seriously hurt, but there's graces and bumps and so forth. Her little petal is, of course, running amok, currently trailing down the middle of the carriage, dragging a 9-foot piece of bandage after her through the carpet and the mud and so forth. At which point he turns and growlingly starts biting and chewing on it. Or slobbering, yes, I guess is perhaps more an accurate term. However, it's only Chihuahua, so no need to make a sanity check for seeing that kind of behavior, much as though it may be tempting. But you do know that she is indeed one of the 4 people ostensibly at last night's card game.
Do we want to all approach at the same time, or do we want to split off to cover more ground with the various people?
I think it would be good to have all of us there, considering, and I'm not naming names, some of our, lack of possibly impulse control when it comes to reacting to people.
I'm fine with that. I just wanted to check.
Yeah, this is the woman wiping blood off at the end of a gun. So, yeah, all good on that one.
There's not blood on the end of my gun. I didn't dip it in blood.
Sure.
Only at the end of the coup de grace shot. It was sort of the miss at range 0 was essentially just a little bit splatterer-y than perhaps normal, but
so Badger would like to let both Gretchen and Dirk do the initial conversation while he's watching out for. Again, it's less the people he's looking at, but the environment itself and seeing what's happening within there. We've got looking for things that are out of place. There should be a bag full of money somewhere because they stole a considerable amount of cash and traveller's checks. So traveller's checks should be easy to hide, but the cash hopefully is quite physically sized. So that's what he's kind of looking for. And he's also looking for the sense of someone opening or closing windows to climb out of the carriageways. So someone who's got that kind of dexterity as well. So again, not really focused on the human kind of conversations, because that's not really his thing, but more the environment. So he'll let Gretchen and Dirk do most of the talking, but he's looking for that throughout it, please.
Sounds good. So that leaves Gretchen and Dirk in the hotspot, as it were.
Do you want to lead in the direction of the conversation, or shall I?
You probably should. I mean, I'm not bad at it, but I also kind of just want to check the shoe size against the print that we got. I can help.
Well, I'm happy to. I just, figured maybe we should have one person kind of direct the conversation and the others can help. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can figure out from her.
Very well. Like I said, Samantha Bowes turns out to be actually a rather pleasant young lady, perhaps more helpful than sensible in some respects. Certainly her choice of clothing for the area seems to suggest that practicality isn't her strong suit. But she's not really, unusually it turns out she's not really paying attention to Petal while she's concerned with helping those around her. So there's a certain bit of continual chaos in the background from that. But basically, you make it. Why don't the two of you make a social roll each? So, charm, intimidate, persuade, fast talk.
Guess this one. Oh, come on. I'm telling you, that good shot is the only green I'm gonna see on this roll 20 today.
Okay.
So the way that I'm going to kind of roleplay my fumble is that I start like talking and then immediately I just stop and go down to the ground to like pick up her foot and start measuring it against the print I got. Like not even asking permission, just like checking it.
Very well.
Oh boy.
You're met with a little bit of, well, not quite a considerable amount of incredulity, but she's so focused on doing good by the people around her and the needs of the wounded and so forth that you kind of get away with it, but it just means that you're not really paying attention to the conversation. But you do, between the two of you, still manage to come out with some information in that there were indeed 4 people plus Mr. Isham playing cards last night. Leeway, his butler, was there as well, but not participating in the game. You get the sense that Samantha was quite fond of something about Mr. Isham, and that she was not a fan of the fourth at the table, or actually either of the other two, apart from her husband. Harlan, but you don't quite manage to get names whilst you're sort of bit busy looking at shoes. You also you get, there's also something about the other gentleman at the table, whatever his name was, wanting to have a private conversation with Mr. Isham after the game. But Samantha left at about 11 p.m. to go and feed Petal, and she didn't return to the game afterwards. So she left early, essentially. And you do catch that she says it's just as well that the gentleman behind me was here in the carriage, was able to lend an ear to my troubles and was willing to listen to my grievances.
During the game?
No, once I came back here. At which point we will quickly flick over to Badger. So Badger is taking a look around, looking for signs of large amounts of cash, anything that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Let's start off with having Badger and Gretchen roll spot hiddens, please. Okay.
So
Badger.
just to add colour for that one, I imagine Badger is massively distracted by Petal, but it's obviously harrying him throughout this kind of conversation with the hard fell.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. That's yes, dear little Petal, who's busy. Yeah, she's basically managed to run the bandage in that figure eight through your legs, in the way of any small animal chasing their toys, and you're having to sort of undo it and almost cut it using a knife to get out of it. However, Badger, make a luck roll as you're doing that.
Sure, that's bound to go well for me.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So, Gretchen, you're busy trying to avoid the mix of accidentally getting kicked by Samantha as you're trying to twist her ankle around 90 degrees from where it is to match up with your print, and also staying out of the way of Petal, who's yapping at you whilst doing so, desperately trying to protect her mistress. When you look down, you happen to look down on the floor, on the seat, or the sofa next behind Mrs. Bowes, where you spot remnants of a very familiar red substance in the carpet fibers.
Is it below the table?
Yeah.
Okay, can I crawl further under the table?
Sure.
Great. I want to crawl further under the table. And then, so does her foot match the drawing?
Her foot certainly doesn't. And she's sitting, as it were, in the alcove, in alcove 1. You've gone in under the table in alcove 2. So the alcove next to the one where she's sitting.
From under the table you hear, "Was your husband sitting here?"
No, that was the gentleman I was speaking with. later on. Agreeable fellow.
And what did you tell him?
Oh, just what a boring night it was in the card game, and how despicable the people were.
Did you tell him anything about, I don't remember what his name is.
Mr. Isham?
The one that died.
Yeah.
Did you tell him anything about Mr. Isham?
Only that he was losing large sums of money in the game to my husband.
Do you happen to know this agreeable fellow's name?
I believe he said it was a Mr. Springs.
Do you happen to know his shoe size?
And she just looks at you with a sort of, why on earth would I know his shoe size? What are you taking
I
for?
don't know. Weird things come up in conversation. I asked you what your shoe size was, so, maybe it's an opening conversation starter.
And Badger's looking genuinely confused about this in the background. Civilized spoke, opening conversation about shoe sizes. Okay, sure.
Shh! I'm tricking her.
I'm going to ask the three of you to make what's known as an idea roll, so an intelligence roll.
I thought you were going to do a sanity check.
Is that
shoe size 42? Okay.
That's impressive. Is that the intelligence in the characteristics?
Yeah.
Oof.
So yes, Gretchen is in Gretchen's way. Gretchen has blinkers on, focus down on this footprint, and isn't really thinking too much about her surroundings, or the fact that Petal is probably at this point piddling up against her boots. Badger, with your innate sense of self and location and just sheer memory for what goes on around you as you silently drink everything in and process it without sort of being consciously aware of it, you recall that there was indeed a gentleman sitting in the booth.
He was a chap that went to the toilet, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was what? Sorry.
He ran into the toilet during the gunfire bit and locked himself in. Is the bathroom still locked at this point?
It is.
Okay. Look for one of the train staff then.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't take long. There's generally one on patrol. So yes, you managed to wave down the conductor.
So, two things. Get home, Gretchen, and then lean close to Dirk and say the fella that was sitting here that bolted into the toilet, given Dirk's propensity with dealing with other human beings in close combat, Dirk's probably the man to do this. So, and then here we go. And initially, then Badger go and look for one of these kind of well-dressed train folk. So move down the carriage to find it, but leave Dirk there to keep an eye on what's going on, because Dirk's pretty good at most of those sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As it happens, about then the conductor comes in from the top door of the train and goes, good to see that we're all.
Yeah. So Badger thinks for a moment and then realizes what Gretchen said and says, "So, what shoe size do you have on?"
The conductor looks a little bit taken aback and goes, "Well, my normal 10.5s, I believe."
Okay. Badger looks a bit nonplussed by that. There's a fella in the toilet that we need to talk to. You can open it, or we can open it for you. Can you sort us out? Thanks, chum.
If you need to talk to them, you need to talk to them. As I said, does that whole, takes out a large key ring and goes up and knocks on the door. Says, "Excuse me, anybody in there?" And there's a muffled, slightly falsettoed, "No," coming from inside.
Whoever that is, he's not very good at this lying thing.
There's some people out here from the law that wish to have a word with you. Would you please come out at your convenience? I might be a while. Might be a long while.
Badger shakes his head at the conductor and does the 3, 2, 1, and then points at the door, then points at the rifle of his butt, his gun butt, and says, "Unlock it now."
The conductor looks at Badger, then looks at Gretchen and Dirk with that sort of, you're really going to back him up on this, aren't you? And quickly catching okay, yes, you really are going to back him up on this. This is so far above my pay grade. Why did I ever choose to become a conductor on the railroad? I should have listened to Mother and stayed on the farm. It takes out the keys. Goes, I really am sorry, sir. We really do have to come in.
He
unlocks the door. And it swings open to reveal a gentleman in a rather well-worn suit, thin circular glasses, boots that are quite possibly about size 9-ish. Noticeably, they do have some red mud on them. And make spot hidden rolls.
While I'm doing this, Gretchen would, Gretchen would, as soon as the door opens, goes, "Hello, sir. So, conversation starter, what size shoe do you wear? Where'd you get the red mud? And have you killed anyone recently?"
Wow,
Oh,
slow
so
and
direct.
Grumbo here.
It's great.
That's such a confusing starter that it just throws Badger for a complete loop. Um, but Gretchen, with her focus on the details, notices that the gentleman in question is wearing a as it were not on with a suit, also a well-worn sports coat that is missing a button.
Is it brass button? For
They are
example,
the
the one
other
we're
remaining
carrying?
are brass buttons.
Hang on.
Why? I haven't killed anybody. What gives you the right to come in here and claim that I've gone around killing people? They can't do that, can they? He says to the conductor, who's trying to back away while still sort of maintaining a presence as the official railroad person, but also recognizing that this is not a scenario to be in.
The fact that I'm a deputy on this train, per the marshal around these parts. Also, I see that you're missing a button. Badger, didn't we find a brass button?
Yeah. Badger pulls out the missing button, hands it over to Dirk. Badger's not going into a small confined toilet space in any way, shape, or form. He's going to hand it to Dirk and can
Yeah.
push the conductor further out the line of sight.
I'll take it and say, if you have nothing to hide, then let me match this against yours and see if it's the same. This was found near a murdered person.
You know what? I have a better idea. And I'm just gonna grab, like. Is he wearing a tie by chance?
Oh, yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna grab his tie and just start walking towards Mr. Isham's room.
Oh, okay. Just to let you know, that is about 3 carriages away.
Okay,
Okay.
I figured as
So
much.
that's fine. Start off with a strength roll just to see if he. How easily he comes along. Is it? Oh, okay. Of course, yes. Yes, you literally sort of pull him almost onto the floor and start frog marching him down the corridor.
At this point, Dirk is going to say, I don't know if we have to do that just yet. Give him a moment to answer. I wouldn't want anyone who doesn't have to see that.
Fine, I guess. And remaining my grip on the tie, I'm going to stop.
I didn't kill him. He was
what?
already dead. He was already dead on the floor when I got there.
How dead?
He was.
Why don't you walk us through exactly what happened when you walked in and what you saw?
Well, I went in. I'd overheard that there was a reasonable amount of cash in a safe at the end of the train. Make at which point the three of you can try to make psychology checks.
Eventually, I'll roll something.
Okay, that matches. I'll come to that in just a second. And so I went back and managed to make my way in to his cabin, but I saw him lying dead on the floor and got scared and ran off. Badger.
Okay, this may seem like a weird question. Oh, go ahead, sorry. My bad.
Two things. One, this man has never told a straight, correct answer in his entire life. Two, on the hat rack above his seat are two large doctor's bags, essentially.
Sure. Being the plain-spoken badger type, he's just going to pull them down and open them up without, he's going to take out his boot knife and just pop open the locks.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
On a good day. Sorry, what was that, Staffan?
I'll say we'll come back to that in just a second. Dirk.
Dirk was going to ask him if any parts of Mr. Isham were missing.
No, he was all there.
Like, all there as in one piece?
Yeah. Well, apart from the piece where his brains have been blown out.
I'm taking a look, but remind me of the layout of where we found him. I'm trying to.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. There's the bed is in the back, and then he was up front. I see. Sorry, I'm.
No, that's.
Double checking. Okay.
I have another question. Where did we find the button?
The button was underneath the bed.
Which is here? Hold on. Like here?
Yes. No.
It's in the very back.
Back in the,
it's in the very, very back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where Li Wei said he had slept that night.
Yes.
Right? I'm remembering that right? Okay.
That is correct.
So then I'm going to, if I can further clarify with him and say, so you went in, saw the body and left?
Yes.
You didn't go in the bedroom
Mm,
where we
no, no, no.
found your button?
Well, I might have stuck my head in just to take a look, but must have fallen off then.
And loot the safe?
Oh, I left before before I got to the safe.
Frankly, because of all the lies you've been telling, I kind of don't believe you.
At this point, just to underscore that a little bit, Badger is, to Mr. Spring's wide-eyed horror, just tearing open the two bags onto the table from above his, and the one is just full of small medical vials, folded pieces of paper with powders inside, bottles labeled Dr. Selden Springs Miracle Hair Tonic Restorer, rejuvenates instantly. The other bag is full of large denomination paper notes.
Looky here.
More lies. Can I take him there now?
Staffan, just on the bottle, is it so really like the ones you see in kind of circus showrooms where they did the hair growth? Is there any particularly odd-looking one that may be used for, I don't know, rendering people unconscious? An unlabeled bottle or an oddly labeled bottle?
There's about half a dozen.
Yeah.
There are some smaller vials that are unlabeled and have got cork stoppers. It's not impossible that one of those could be a chloroform or a laudanum or some such.
Yeah, because Badger's going to get him to do the, pick those ones up. So pointedly push the money out the way and then kind of bring these bottles in play. And then give Dirk a kind of a side glance and in a low kind of stage whisper, like, do you think we should get him to smell some of these to see what effect they have? And shakes the bottles.
Go ahead and make a second set of psychology rolls.
Right, sure.
Oh boy, let's see. Oh my goodness gracious.
Okey-doke. Okay. Doesn't seem to noticeably react too much to them, but he does look at the money and go, well, all right, it's a fair cop. Yes, I did break into the safe, but I left straight away. I don't know what happened to Mr. Isham.
So, was Isham alive when you broke in, and was his manservant in the room when you broke in?
There was somebody in the bed, but I made sure that I
And
wasn't
you
going
didn't
to be
knock him out?
disturbed.
Yeah, okay. And which ball did that?
And he shakingly points at one of them.
Okay. Pocket that one for the moment. Right. What time was this?
Oh, probably about 2, 3 in the morning, something like that.
Because we got the time delta between when the game was played and when Samantha left, and then when the burglary was. So there's kind of a time window, right? This is just asking for kind of player piece.
Yeah,
We've got kind of a time window.
this would put it shortly after, maybe about an hour after the game finished. The game probably, from what Lee Wei said, the game finished around midnight.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then they were up for a while longer after that. So
So there's roughly an hour window where the death could have taken place.
yeah.
Okay. Right.
So obviously, the stolen money will have to be dealt with at some point. But what are your thoughts on him being the one who killed him?
Well, as much as I think he's a thief, know he's a thief, and know he's a liar, I'm not quite sure I see murderer really written on his forehead.
Oh,
Plus, he didn't really have. I'm not sure he really had motive, because if he was able to chloroform, or whatever the term is for this point in time, the Li Wei, then he probably would have been able to do so to Mr. Isham as well, which would have caused a lot less of an investigation.
yeah, that was the direction I was thinking too.
Yeah. Badger just drops some manacles on his things and just hauls him to his feet. Time for you to change rooms. You're going to come sit in the back with us rather than your fancy chairs here.
Well, at least it'll be safe there.
Badger kind of gives him yeah, possibly.
Are we putting him with the group?
Yep. So Badger just kind of cuffing him and pulling him on by the manacles, leaves the money where it was to you two, and then just kind of hauls him off towards the marshal.
Selden Springs to the marshal, indeed. Gets to hang out.
A quick reprise of basically the problem, but we're still missing a murderer. We're still missing how Isham died as his conversation. So basically just clink him up, lock him up, take away any of his knives or things he's got to escape, and then say, he's a tricky one, this one. Time real good.
And we don't
that
know.
will do.
And we don't know how Isham exploded either.
Well, yeah. I was thinking, other than the exploding bit, that's weird, and something happened there. But for people with a motive to kill him, it sounds like, by what we heard from, I am so bad with names, Miss Lady with the dog, that, so wait, I'm mixing things up, I think. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I
The
don't
wife
know.
is Samantha. She was the lady with the dog. Her husband was playing the card game, and there were two other people at that
Yeah.
card game, and another lady and another man, which she didn't like either of.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
So if you,
I'm just trying to think of. I'm trying to think if anything we've heard so far would give someone a reason to at least shoot him. Explosion on the side for now.
So
I don't know.
There was a bit of a motive that he seemed to be winning a lot of money. So people always get a bit upset about people winning. So maybe someone thought it was cheating and did something to him. So the kind of next conversation is the three other people at the card game, other than Samantha, who was just spoken to, and her delightful dog that, Badger's been trying to gently kick repeatedly whenever it comes near him.
Absolutely, and just to clarify the run of the card game as far as you know it from the notebook that you found and from what Samantha Bose was saying, it seems that Harlan Bose was the one doing the winning at the card table.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Risham was taking quite a loss. However, you did find the scuffed aces in the sleeve of Mr. Isham's suit jacket in his compartment. So he managed to lose big whilst cheating, possibly. Yeah.
So that covers the bit that stuck in my head because I knew he had cards and I thought he was winning for some reason. But okay, that's even weirder then. Because if he's lost,
yeah, that's what I've thought too.
That's super weird. So
yeah.
And sorry, who was the? So there was Samantha Harland, and there was the two other people in the notebook. And sorry, my notes have gone a bit awry.
There was a Miss Agatha Knowles, who was the prim and proper lady, who dressed about 40 years out of fashion. And there was Mr. Larsh Manning, the obnoxious anthropologist.
Yeah, no, okay. So Badger turns back to Dirk, and Gretchen is like, which lady or fella do you want to speak to next?
If I remember correctly, I swear I'll remember the name eventually. I just gotta drill it into my head. But Lady with the Dog said that the other gentleman, but husband, and Mr. Isham was not to her liking, I guess. I don't remember her exact words, but I think we should start with him.
Okay, so that's Mr. Manning.
Yeah, because...
Okie doke. Well, as it happens, You make your way down to the last sleeper carriage, having regrouped. And as you're coming down the corridor, you do see a man fitting the description of what you believe to be Mr. Manning, just heading into the cabin of the carriage.
I'll go ahead and call and say, Mr. Manning, kind of like questioning if that's him, see if he reacts.
Oh! He turns around and goes, "Oh, my dear sir, you gave me quite the start. Why, yes, I am. Lars Manning at your service." And he holds out a way too large business card.
Okay. Dirk will take it, not quite sure what to do with the business card from anyone, and just like, thank you. We were wanting to ask you about the card game you played last night.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Why? Well, why don't you please come on in? Let's have a seat. And he goes to head into the cabin.
Well, I'll follow. I mean, yeah. While keeping an eye out if there's anything weird. And though I don't think my Dirk is the best at this, I also want to kind of watch his mannerisms to see if he's like faking anything, I guess.
Okay. Gretchen Badger?
I'll follow Dirk's lead.
Perhaps just going to stand by the doorway. So in the doorway, please, not kind of go and just kind of casually lean against the door and leave the door open. Because so the goal is A, to watch the interaction and listen to what's being said, but watch this long corridor that seems to stretch backwards and forwards and see if anybody else shows interest.
Absolutely. Well, the layout of the cabin is basically the same as the one that you have in your carriage. However, the details are somewhat different in that there are numerous bound and unbound piles of paper spread everywhere in this cabin. There are probably a good 20 books, leather bound, lying spread around, open. And Mr. Manning goes, "Oh, and please do excuse the mess. It's been somewhat of a working trip. As you know, I'm an anthropologist by trade, and well, studies always continue."
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna kind of glance over the papers that are lying about that aren't like, not look through them, but just kind of glance at them, you know, and just see if anything catches my eye while he's talking.
Why don't you give me a library use roll? On the basis that this is indeed a Call of Cthulhu game, and it wouldn't be a Call of Cthulhu game without a library use.
Oh, goodness gracious. More red.
Okay. Well, seems to be a lot of textbooks.
Yeah.
Lots of diagrams of various kinds, none that make any sense. But yeah, lots of sort of textbooky technical literature. So yes, sir, madam. Please do take a photograph, madam. And he hands Gretchen a signed headshot of himself.
No thanks. And I'm going to hand it back.
Oh, well, quite all right.
Is
But yes,
Dorsha?
look, sorry?
Sorry, I was going to say. I was going to say, is Dorsha within earshot, or is she back at the? If she stayed there, that's fine. It's just books.
Yeah, she's currently back at
Okay.
since she's probably the only one who's not been knocked out in the last few hours of the people keeping guard. So
We were asking about the card game. Could you walk us through your night last night?
yes, well, quite an interesting night, really. Very very interesting people. Well, there was that. There was, let's see. There was the Boses, of course. Harlan and Samantha, I think. Although she left early, had to go back and take care of that dog of hers. I must say, Harlan was playing quite well all night. He was winning fairly solidly, and Mr. Isham seemed to take it in good stead. All the better, all the more for him. But a piece of fortune, really. I was able to. I guess that it'll be published in the Gazetteer of Anthropology soon enough. Once I get to San Francisco, that I don't mind saying. I recently came across a rather remarkable artifact of the Olmec civilization down in Central America, don't you know? I felt it best that perhaps it would be safest kept in Mr. Isham's safe, and he was happy to lend me the use of it. Feels much better knowing that we will arrive down in Oakland safe and in one piece.
Going to try not to give away with my face the fact that the safe didn't have anything like that in it. Anything that Dirk would describe as an artifact. Because,
Just to sort of to see. I know you have this. Everybody has a really low ability at this, but just make a fast talk roll. See how awfully.
I'm so tired of seeing red.
Okay. Fortunately for the group, Mr. Manning's psychology score is only 10, so he fails as well. So that's he doesn't pick up on the fact that something is off, or at least not noticeably so. So yes, we finished off the game at about midnight. I came back here, got the tablet, took it back down to Mr. Isham's carriage, where his man put it in the safe. I bade them good night, came back here and went to bed.
What
Did
time
you
was
discuss
that about?
at the... Oh, yeah, time. That's good, too. Sorry.
Oh, it would have been straight after the game, so shortly after midnight.
Did you discuss at the game taking your putting your artifact in his safe?
Yes.
Okay. Was anyone acting weird? Like, I don't think you probably just met these people on the train, but or anything an abnormal type of behavior that you could notice?
No, no, it all seemed perfectly straight up and above board.
Do you two have any questions for him? Because I've run out.
Is there anyone else on the train that would be interested in this tablet?
Oh, I'm sure there would be plenty of people interested in it. After all, it's the find of the century. It's going to make me a multimillionaire, I'm sure. The name Lars Manning will be on everybody's lips. First Howard Carter, now Lars Manning.
Sure.
Do you have any drawings of this tablet or any research that you've done into it that's with you?
Well, yes. Here, one moment, and he wanders off into his pile and.
So what is this? Is this tablet supposed to do something? Does it say something, or?
Well, it is an old Olmec, so Central American pre-civilization, pre about a millennium before Christian era tablet. I was at down at a place called Latventa when I discovered it, and it's been named in various sources as Naukikschan. It's if I've been able to decipher it correctly, and I'm sure that I have. After all, I am Lars Manning, a well-known expert in these matters. It holds a ritual to bind souls to it, or at least so it claims. Something about animal sacrifices.
Oh, fascinating.
And I think with that revelation, time to draw the curtains over tonight's portion of the adventure as the eldritch factor suddenly increases exponentially.
No kidding.
What do you mean it's not?
So, why don't we just quickly go through and yet again say who you are, where we can find you, and if you have any favorite moments. So let's go around the other way and start off with Chris.
Fortunately, I'm still Chris. Amazingly, Badger seems to be surviving, which is amazing. I have to love that we've managed to solve a murder by creating a murder. We've arrested a criminal, which is great, without actually killing the criminal. And Badger now knows in social discourse to start off with what size shoes you're wearing. So I think that's a magical moment right there for him.
Fenway.
Hi everyone, my name is Fenway Jones. I am also known as Fenway the Teen DM on Twitter, or Jasper's Game Day on all of the social media. So you can find me anything that has to do with Jasper's or a lot of different charity things. And I think one of my favorite moments is probably, well, a couple things. First, the look on everyone's faces when I first said I was just going to outright shoot and not try and do anything else with it. Secondly, that I managed to convince Badger that asking for a shoe size was a normal way to start a conversation.
Vincent, over to you.
I'm Vincent. You can find me on Twitter at QueercyGamer. I use other things, but I'm the most active on there just because of ease of use, so easiest place. And for me that just the mention of him setting the artifact to be put in the safe, just the realization of, oh no, this just got a whole lot bigger that I had. I mean, not necessarily that Dirk had, but that I had. I'm like, uh-oh. That's probably my favorite. I like that a lot.
Oh, it's been a fun night, I have to admit. I'm Staffan, known as RQ Staffan on the socials, and I think I'm going to say that my favorite moment tonight was the sheer accuracy that Dirk took out the ringleader of the Hensley gang with a single
Only
bullet.
decent roll I had all night.
But on to a little bit of final wrap up. I want to also thank our wonderful, incredible producer who's also been setting up all the backcloths and everything else for a wonderful job, especially since she's been doing 2 streams simultaneously side by side tonight. So big shout out to Sam or Scribble Dibble. The channel stuff, not only can you find us here on Twitch/Penny for a Tale, there's also the YouTube where things will get uploaded typically a week after transmission. There is a Patreon for those of you that would care to support the channel in a more direct manner. Coming up, it's going to be a bumper week here on Penny for a Tale. Coming up on this Wednesday, Pope World Builder is going to be running his group through A Song of Fire and Ice, Brotherhood of Shadows. That's at 8:30 Eastern. Saturday is the Glooming with a Baltimore-based game store, No Land Beyond. And for the big one, this Sunday is the 50th episode of the channel Pathfinder 2nd Edition game, Age of Ashes, and they're going to be hosting a giveaway of a Pathfinder box as a special prize during the show. So it's well worth coming along and watching some amazing gaming just for that alone. And the points towards that giveaway you can earn just by, frankly, watching me here and have done tonight. So we're going to be back next week for the finale of 5 Hours to Reno, when we will find out just what all these separate threads have in common and what potential horrors lies in the center of the pinboard with all the red thread on it. I want to yet again extend a huge thank you to my wonderful players who've certainly kept me entertained, and I hope all of you out in watching land entertained for the last few hours. And with that, we will say good night, and not least of all, sweet dreams.